And we're here. All right. So, welcome to the introduction of healing through the feminine wounds. So, this session that we're moving into right now is going to be the information piece for the journey that's upcoming. So, if people are catching the replay, this program, this healing through the feminine wounds journey, is going to be something that is available for lifetime access. So, this is not something that you need to join by August 1st. This is something you can jump in whenever you're catching this replay, whenever your body calls you into this work. But this is the setting. We are setting the foundation for this journey that we are going into. So that being said, all of this information that we're going to cover today can be worked with, played with, and transposed on so many different aspects of life. We're going to be talking about shadow work. We're going to be talking about the feminine mysteries. We're going to be talking about our responsibility as being someone in a space that actually holds a womb, someone who is in the feeling aspect of being in the moment. So there's a lot of elements to this that are, of course, directly related to healing through the feminine wounds, but they're also going to reflect on all different elements of your life and your shadow work journey, et cetera, et cetera. So before we go into that, I am going to invite us to ground in, to fully land in, to fully arrive, because with this information, I want it to be able to land in the fullness of our beings, not just our mind. We want to be able to really listen with our heart, with our intuition, and allow this resonance to land in the body. Take what works for you today and leave the rest. This is not about indoctrination. This is not about force-fitting concepts when they're not meant for you. This is meant to hear with your ears, like, what is here for me today? And tomorrow it may be something different. And in a year from now, it could be something completely different. So continue to revisit with new ears all the time, every time, always, always. Okay. So that being said, let's drop in a little bit. So I'll invite you here to take 3 deep clearing breaths, inhaling through the nose and exhaling with a sound through the mouth. And allowing your breath to drop into its own flow here, but keeping the inhale through the nose and the exhale through the mouth. And keeping a soft sound with the exhale, allowing the vibration of your breath, the vibration of your sound to ground you and land you into your body. And setting the intention here in this moment to arrive here in this moment. Letting go of the morning, the afternoon. Letting go of the day, the week. Allowing yourself to be fully present, all parts of you here now. What is the sound of your exhale that will support you in arriving into your body, into this moment now? Consciously inhaling through the nose, sending your breath all the way down past your throat, past your heart, your diaphragm, your womb, all the way down to the root of your body, inhaling to the root. And exhaling with a sound to ground you into your body, ground you into the moment. Taking your time to arrive. And staying present with the breath, allowing the breath to be that vehicle of transportation from one state of consciousness to the next, carrying you into your body, non-attached, fully present and aware. And setting the intention here for this session today, tonight, that you receive exactly what is meant to be received, that you forget exactly what you are meant to forget, and that you remember exactly what you are meant to remember, always and always, always. And keeping this connection grounded in the body and starting to become aware of the senses. To be in our feminine is to be in our sensuality. It is to awaken through the senses. It is to receive information through our senses. As we receive the information through our senses, we are orientated in space and time. So noticing in this moment, what do you hear? What do you notice with your ears? And allowing yourself to connect to the element of ether, the space between the atoms. And coming to your sense of smell. What do you notice with your nose? As you connect to the element of air. And coming to your mouth. What do you taste? What do you notice with your mouth as you connect to the element of water? And inviting you here to bring your left hand to your heart and your right hand to your womb, just holding your body for a moment, connecting to your sense of touch, the nerve endings in the palms of your hands. What do you feel? What do you notice with your hands? And allowing your touch to explore maybe your neck, your face, as you connect to the element of earth. Keeping this connection to all of these inner senses as we begin to prepare to transition and orientate more to the outer space. And as you're ready, taking your time, allowing your eyes to gently, softly, slowly crack open. Beginning to connect to your sense of sight. What do you see? What do you notice with your eyes as you connect to the element of fire? Taking your time, keeping this connection to all of the senses. Maybe taking a sip of water, stretching, yawning. What does the body desire? You've arrived. All right. It is such an honor and a long time coming to be having this conversation today. My name is Nikki Ananda. If you don't know me already, this is the work, the realms that I dwell in, working between the feminine mysteries and feminine embodiment and sacred sexuality and priestess temple arts. All of these aspects of what it is to be alive and to be a woman in these times, like this is what I'm passionate about. And this journey specifically, bringing forward first, of course, the conscious menstruation and cyclical alchemy program, like that work, if you haven't already seen it, like that is the foundation that all of this is born from. When we come into understanding the magic and the mysteries of the womb, we see that this physical portal exists within our beings, within our bodies. And this womb center that we have, it is the gateway for us to access these other realms. It is the portal for us to go into the mysteries, to enter these lands where magic is running rampant, these lands of like possibilities, these realms where we don't have logic anymore. We get to be completely enchanted by the energies, by our presence. And we're coming into this aspect of beingness where, yes, it's about feminine embodiment, but that's the first step. And for me, the ultimate journey is all about sacred union. It's all about aligning our inner masculine with our inner feminine. And there's so many different ways that people are teaching and talking about polarity, and there's a lot of misconceptions, and there's a lot of stigma, and there's a lot of associations, and there's just a lot of information. So I want to invite you here to come in with a beginner's mind. The way that I use language is not going to be the same as anyone else uses language, or maybe it's exactly the same, right? But we want to come in and we want to stay curious. We want to listen with the body, allow what is true for your body to awaken through this journey today. And ironically, this piece of the journey, so this is the introduction to a 4-week journey that we're going to start next week. And this introduction piece is the informational piece. So we are prepping the conscious mind. We are prepping the soil so that our conscious mind, our masculine energy, feels safe enough to go into these realms of the mysteries, because the feminine is the darkness. It is the void. It is the unknown. It is the shadow. So in order for us to really have our nervous system on board with this, our masculine parts of self want to know something. They want to have an idea of what this is about. So this presentation today is the art of the masculine understanding of what this journey is all about. I want to open this up with a little story about how I came into these feminine wounds. And I'm going to talk a lot more about my stories in the actual journey, but I want to give examples because, again, like this work, it's like when we're going in to the womb, when we're going into these realms, the multidimensionality of human existence, it gets less tangible. This physical world, this physical 3-dimensional reality is the densest part of our existence. Everything moves slowest. Everything is vibrating slowest in this reality. So we can see it, we can touch it, we can sense it with our 5 main senses. Like it's tangible, we can grasp it. It makes sense in a lot of ways. So what we're doing when we're coming into feminine embodiment is we're letting go of the need for things to make sense, and we're trusting in what we feel. But in that, there's also nuance, because what we feel is not associated to the story that we may think it's connected to. So this whole journey is paradoxical, right? Like it's all going to be paradox. If it's not a paradox, it's not true. That's the ironic fun part of this. So always look for the paradox. All right. So this all being said, I came into the feminine wounds. It was October of 2020. 14. I went to my first women's gathering. It was a it was a ceremony, a weekend ceremony called Wisdom Fire. I didn't even know before this, or I met a few women at this water ceremony a month before, and this was the first time that I saw that women were gathering doing this sacred work that I had been doing on my own, very novice like and experimental my entire life. Like since I was a teenager, I was always interested in ceremony and ritual and spirituality. But up until this moment, up until the ceremony, or what led up to the ceremony, I had no idea that women were gathering and had always been gathering for healing, for sisterhood, for community, for the earth, for the earth. So this in itself was a massive awakener, but it all had to happen in perfect sequence. And there's a lot that led up to me being prepared to be in the ceremony, but that's a completely different journey. What I want to talk about is during the ceremony, it was a 3-day ceremony. We held a council. So a council is, you have somebody coming up to speak in front of the whole group of people. There were probably 50 women at this gathering. And my dear sister Katrina, who was putting on this event, and I later became a member of the nonprofit that put on this event. Actually, that weekend after that, I was like, I'm going to join your team. And this was a big part of my life for 4 years. But my sister Katrina, the weekend I met her, she was leading this event. She was one of the facilitators. And what she had said was, if your heart is beating really fast, trust that you have something to say, even if you don't know what you're going to say. So maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people went up, and there was this gap in time. And then my heart's beating, and I'm like, oh shit. No idea what's happening, but I knew I had to stand up. Now, I'm not a public speaker. That may seem funny now as I do this, but definitely at that time, I absolutely was not. And I was terrified. Here I am in front of a group of women, 50 women. And this is the first time I'd been to any kind of women's gathering. I was severely bullied from elementary school into middle school into high school. I had to switch schools. I had to move states because of this. Like, my sister wounding ran deep. So me even being in a place where I was vibrationally a match to be with this many women and sacred women and spiritual women, to be safe in sisterhood, like this was a quantum shift for me. This was a quantum shift in my environment. So I trusted that I was there for a reason. I was there to do work, spiritual work. I was there to heal. So when I got up to stand and I grabbed the staff, what came out of my mouth completely floored and shocked me. So a lot of you know that I was adopted as an infant. And I always had this story, like, I had like a lot of turbulence when I was younger. So I saw various therapists, guidance counselors, all of the people, all of the professionals. Alas, this is why I do what I do. But what they would always, or one woman specifically, and a lot of them would say was, this is because you're adopted. This is because you feel abandoned. And I was like, I was adopted at 17 days old. I have no recollection of this. The family who raised me absolutely loved me. Like, this has nothing, like, you're like way off the mark, way off the mark. So during the ceremony, as I come into council, as I hold the staff, I start speaking about my adoption and how I learned that love feels like abandonment. Now, this is all channeling through me, like stream of consciousness. I had no idea I even felt this way, but this is the power of women coming together. Things open within us subconsciously, in the body that we have been so consciously and subconsciously protecting ourselves from accessing. So this was the moment in my life that it was safe enough for me to say out loud, I learned that love feels like abandonment. So I started to see all of the ways that my adoption, and I want to say too, the paradox, my biological mother giving me up for adoption was the greatest act of love that I have ever been given. And at the same time, it's the deepest root of my trauma. So this is what we're looking at when we go into this journey of healing through the feminine wounds. Our shadows are our gifts. Our light is our shadow. Our consciousness becomes subconscious. Like, this is the work. This is the work. So I'm there speaking about love feels like abandonment. I'm starting to see all of the ways that this was what attracted me to be a match for being bullied. Why I never had safe women in my life is because the first primordial physical mother I had, the one that gave me life, never even touched my body. She never even held me after I was born. Now, the journey I've been on with her, I found her miraculously in February of 2020. She's watching this program on the replay, but it has been such a wild, wild journey since. But 10 years ago was when this unlocked. And I first started to see the mother wound and the sister wound. And not only that, I didn't even know those were things. I didn't even know these words existed. I didn't know they were things that people actually studied and talked about. I just knew it was alive in my body. And of course, after I revealed it, I started to see all of these things, all of these people talking about these wounds. It was like the universe collapsed and I was in a new paradigm. And this became my path to healing, something I was very, very deeply passionate about. So that being said, this journey is nonlinear. It is a spiral. So much of what I talk about in the conscious menstruation and cyclical alchemy work, it's like we journey around the spiral of our wounds. There is no healed, like there is no I've arrived, and we are healed and we have arrived. It's the paradox of all of the above, always, only always, only always. So what I want to bring to you through this introduction session today is just an understanding of what shadow work is, how these mysteries start to come up. And again, I'm logically explaining something that's intangible. So keep that in mind and listen to what your body is speaking to you as I speak literal words. All right. Let's see. Here we go. All right, so healing through the feminine wounds. The essence of this work takes us deeper into the feminine mysteries. We come to this journey to begin to peek beyond the veils of separation while honoring the paradox of learning through oneness and relationships. The sacred feminine path is based upon duality. We must learn to walk with the paradox. We must learn to embody our shadow and our light. This is a shadow work journey of healing, awakening, and alchemizing. So the power of this journey, this upcoming journey specifically that we're going on, the power is in the transformation. It's not in the information. And I just want to emphasize this again and again and again. I am here as a guide. I'm a teacher, but I'm a guide in this sake. This is me guiding this journey of transformation. This is work where you will get what you put into it. No exception, no exception. And also, while I say that, don't use this as an opportunity to make yourself wrong or to make yourself feel like you're not doing enough. Like that's not what this is an invitation for. This is an invitation to understand energetic investment, and to be full in is enough. To have your heart in is enough. That's enough. That's enough. And listening to your intuition and how this journey calls you, that's enough. It's not about showing up to every call on time, hitting the replays on time. That's not the point. The point is honoring your time, listening to your time while being fully invested with your full self, your full heart. The willingness to look at the darkest parts of yourself and others through the lens of non-judgment and unwavering compassion is what will take you the distance. It's going to be tricky. Tricky. When we come together to do this work, we are healing far beyond the personal. This is work that heals our lineages and the entire collective of beings on earth. It is our sacred task to be radically responsible for our shadows. We then become the bridge for others to access their own power and radical self-healing. This is really important, because we hear a lot, especially in the coaching industry, especially in like the feminine leadership words, like this concept of calibrating, which is very real. The strongest energy in the room is going to win. So if we can use our strength to not be in this place of reaction and trigger, and instead we become the beacon of healing, we become a force that's not only healing for us, of course, in our lineage, but everyone that is within the present moment, that everyone that we share space and time with. And this is our service. This is our sacred service. This is our work. So this is a foundation for all women, practitioners, healers, and leaders. 100%. This is the work that qualifies us to be in highest service. If we can learn how to transmute the wounds that are existing with us, we will start to see any flicker of wounding that's within the space. And we don't even have to understand the wound. We just have to have compassion for what it is to be a human walking wounded, and we can transmute it. And we can transmute it. That is our task. Life is service. Life is service. This is the inner work that amplifies our capacity to hold more as practitioners, transmuting what is not only ours, but what is alive in each moment. To be in service is to serve the moment. Money comes, money is going to come, but we have to know what we're doing in the moment. We have to know how to hold the moment. We have to know how to actually be in service. And that doesn't come in the mind. It's not logical. It's in our being. As women, as womb keepers, this is our work. This is our power. Our womb is the center of creation and dissolution. Our womb is the center of transmutation. This isn't just for us. This is for the entirety of the moment and all beings that exist within it. So this is how we're going beyond. This is how we're going deeper from the realms of conscious menstruation and understanding our body and how to work with our body. And now we're coming more into that mother archetype of how are we serving the earth? How are we serving humanity? As we commit to our personal shadow work journey, we learn that what is within us becomes a key to accessing all healing that exists within the universe. Each code we carry is here to serve the healing of the collective. All of it, all of it. All of our shadows are interconnected with other shadows. A shadow is a shadow is a shadow is a shadow. All we need to do is be radically honest with ourselves. And what is our unique coding? What is our unique blueprint for this work? We don't have to understand everyone else's stuff. We just need to know ours. So this, I really do believe this is the essence. This is my why. This is my why I want people to have this information. This is my why that this is important. Our inherent feminine magic is within our power to transform the moment. I believe that anyone who is in my field, anyone who is in my realm is a healer. Like, we're all healers. Like, that's what we're doing. We're healing ourselves. We're healing the earth. We're here because we care. We're here because we love. We're here because we want something better than the suffering that we've seen, that we've experienced. All of this, all of this. So I want to give a template. I want to give a blueprint for how we can bring more healing, more light. And light is just consciousness. Like, that's it, right? Light is consciousness. How can we bring more light into the moment without rejecting our shadow, without being in fear spirals, guilt spirals, shame spirals, without casting out the parts of ourselves and others, without othering parts of ourselves and others? When we can be in the fullness, when we can be integrated in our shadows, we can fully embody our light. And in that integration, in that union, and the yin yang of all of this, when we can hold the paradox, when we can hold the duality, when we can hold it all in unwavering compassion, there is nothing that can stop us. There is nothing that can stop the force that is unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness. And that is the essence. That is the essence that all life needs to thrive. That is what all life needs to thrive. From there, everything else comes. We survive. We survive. But this is the core. This is where it comes from. So yeah, so feminine energy is Shakti. Like, that's what it is. It's pure creative energy. When we're talking about the feminine, we're talking about the pure creative energy. When we're talking about the masculine, we're talking about Shiva. It's awareness. It's like, it's the Godhead. So the Shiva, the masculine, that oneness is the part of us that sees that there is no separation. The vibration rippling through the moment. We are the vibration. We are all of it. There is nothing that separates me from the air, from the screen, from you. It is one. We are one. But our feminine part of self is the part of us that experiences life through the relationships, through the separation. So our feminine magic, we are here as these separate Shakti pots, like these energetic vessels. And the energy that we bring to the moment transforms the moment, transforms the moment. Now, this isn't, again, an opportunity to feel bad or guilt ourselves for not being perfect and joyful and all of the things, right? Because there's no good or bad. There's no good or bad or right or wrong feeling. It's just how authentically can we show up in the moment in a way that's not harmful. Like, we don't want to perpetuate harm. There's anger without harm, right? There's different ways we can, there's rage that isn't harmful. So we want to have this piece of emotional intelligence integrated in our being so we can show up in the fullness of our Shakti, the fullness of our feminine energy. And that our presence is the gift to the moment. It is our service. Our service is simply in our beingness, simply. And then there's all the work it takes for us to be simply in our beingness, the paradox. Okay. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about towards the end of this, or probably halfway through, this aspect of how the womb comes into play, because there is this energetic grounding that we can do. It's not just, I don't want us all to be trying to conceptualize how to be present, how to move our energy. Like there are systems we can work with the body. Sacred feminine embodiment is understanding, like, the chakras, our womb center, our heart, our yoni, all of these sacred parts of our body, and how to work with them in ways that are not just the physical properties that they have, but the holographic, the multidimensional aspects that these parts, these centers have for us. So how do we work with them? We're going to get into that a little bit. That's going to be much more so for the actual journey that we're going on, the 4-week journey. All right. Shadow work. What is shadow work? I know all of you are familiar with shadow work. And again, it's just languaging, right? Like we're putting words of intangible things, like we're trying to quantify them. And we're going to do a good job. So our shadow is our subconscious. And it was really like name it. It was Carl Jung that really started to bring these concepts into the Western world. Like indigenous cultures had different ways of relating. It's even like the way we use the word trauma in Western psychological verbiage is the same as like having these spiritual fragmentations that shamans would perceive. So these aren't new concepts. It's just new language for concepts that have always existed since, humans been on this journey. Let me check in here. Oh my gosh. All right. So Carl Jung's birthday is today. I love this. Thank you for that. Thank you for that message. Beautiful. Brilliant. Of course. All right, so thank you, Carl Jung, for bringing shadow work into the Western world. And so our shadow is our subconscious. Our subconscious is created through our lived experiences, our beliefs, our feelings, and emotions, both processed and unprocessed, very important, and our habitual behaviors. The subconscious mind is said to shape 95% of our perceived and experienced reality. Like, let's just digest this. This means that 95% of our perceived and experienced reality is a filtered projection from imprints that were created in our past that separates us from the newness, aliveness, fullness, and the abundance of opportunities that exist in the now. So much of our mental energy, so much of the information that we're perceiving and through the senses, right? Like, look at the sense of smell. We can smell something. Smell is like the most directly connected sense to memory. We can smell something and it'll take us back to a moment in childhood in crystal clear detail. Like our senses are so linked to our past experiences in ways that we don't even consciously register. So as we're taking in information through our senses, whether it be the color of paint on a wall in a place we've never been before, but it reminds us of the color paint at our aunt's house when we got yelled at by our mother. And so we're put back into this emotional state that we can't understand. It's illogical. This is how that subconscious programming works. This is how our shadow works. Our shadow is the echo of our past experience that wants us to remember it. Remember. So typically these are unprocessed thoughts, feelings, emotions, and the habitual behaviors that become just imprinted in who we are. And it starts to move like fractals. And we're going to talk about fractals in a little bit. But essentially what we want to do is we want to be looking at these imprints and releasing them so we have more agency in the moment. We have more choice in the moment, choice to perceive things in a new way, beginner's mind in all of the ways. So shadow work is the process of bringing our subconscious to conscious, bringing our shadow to light. Shadow is subconscious, light is conscious. And in terms of polarity, duality, and the like the sacred mystery teachings, the shadow, the subconscious is the feminine, and the light and the conscious is the masculine. But this is also why it's been so easy for, say, the church and a lot of dominant men over millennia to have us really dissociate from the feminine because the unknown is scary, the darkness is scary, the void is scary, all of these aspects that makes the feminine so uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. And the other piece of this is our subconscious lives in our body, right? So the same way that our senses can activate memories and put us in this projection, and we don't even know we're in the projection. When we activate certain movements in the body, things can unlock in certain time. And this is why I believe, and I'm so grateful for Peter Levine and Bessel van der Kolk and all of these somatic healers, like really bringing in this new wave of healing that is body first healing, because we can really get to the root of the subconscious through the body, through embodiment. And that being said, it's also through ritual. All right, so why do we do shadow work? As we bring our subconscious parts of self into our consciousness, we begin to reclaim and restore our personal power. It's like we're unhooking all of these parts of ourselves that are trapped in the past to become fully present. Like even what we did as simple as the meditation that started us off today, it's just that simple. How do we become fully present and open and aware to the moment that is new, When we come into practices like meditation, we're opening up the doorways between subconscious and consciousness, right? We unlock parts of ourselves that have been trapped in karmic cycles. We unlock parts of ourselves that have been trapped in karmic relationships. We begin to de-armor from the ways we brace ourselves against the outer world. This is so important too. Like so many of us are walking around protected and armored in ways that we don't even realize, like the tension that the body's even holding as we go out. Like I'm so guilty of this, like going to get coffee first thing in the morning when I am not ready to see a person. I'm like, no, I don't wanna. Like all of the bracing, it's conscious softening. All right, I can release the armor, and de-armoring is obviously a big part of the feminine path. But shadow work is the beginning. It is a beginning to a path of de-armoring when we can become aware that we are bracing ourselves, and that's from a shadow, an echo, something from the past. Just that awareness is enough to begin to start to unravel the bracing from the body, the armor from the body. Okay. So we reclaim our personal power and our sovereignty. We reclaim freedom of choice so that we may consciously respond to life as opposed to react. Respond, react, respond, react. We want to be responsive. We liberate our creative energy, which is Shakti, sexual energy, Chi, Prana, Kundalini. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. We liberate our creative energy so we become more empowered in our ability to create from a place of desire as opposed to repeating patterns from the past. This is everything. If we are not aware of our shadow, and we talked about this a little bit in the Conscious Menstruation and Cyclical Alchemy program, we talked about this in that program in regards to the trauma that we store in our womb. If we're not aware and we're not doing womb clearing practices, then we are from the subconscious, we are manifesting, for lack of a better word, but I know you all know how I feel about that word. We are creating from a place that is not fully conscious. And then we're going to start to, and nothing's good or bad. I want to name this 100%. Our shadow is not bad. It's here to teach us about ourselves. The feminine learns through relationships, which includes our relationship to our own shadow. How do we relate to our shadow? Are we judging it? Are we saying it's creating chaos, it's creating harm, and that's bad? Like how are we relating to it? When our shadow is the subconscious part of us is creating in our outer universe, all it is doing is giving us deeper and bigger opportunities for healing. That's it. It's giving us more opportunities for profound healing. And these shadows, like fractals, and we'll get into that, will echo out bigger and bigger and bigger and louder and louder and louder until we get the healing. And that's it. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not punishing us. It's here in service to us in our evolution. Always. That being said, it seems to be across the board a lot more enjoyable when we are consciously creating our universe from a place of desire. It seems to be like that's what we want more of. So we want to move in that direction of releasing more of these shadow imprints, which is a fun, exciting adventure and journey. So we can be that sovereign creatrix of our universe, of our reality. Okay. So ritual. So as you know, this 8-part journey we're going on, it's 4 parts transmission and reflection and the inner work, and then 4 parts of doing the ritual, which is more the outer work, and outer in the sense that we are bringing action into the physical reality. So why do we do this? Why do we even work with ritual? When we use ritual, we are creating a pathway to directly communicate with our subconscious through the physical and 3-dimensional world. Our subconscious speaks in symbols. Ritual is symbolic action. So when we make intentional symbolic actions in a specific sequence, we create a clear pathway for the energy to flow through. The sequence of actions shows our subconscious mind the direction and pattern that we are intentionally creating and moving our energy towards. This allows our subconscious to bridge with our conscious mind, which creates fluid and coherent states for transformation. Now, there's other elements of this too, like when we're working with ritual, we're working with sacred space. When we create sacred space, we're creating like an actual sealed moment, a sealed portal in time that is very intentional. And we are saying, universe, I am here. Look at me with all of your attention. Give it to me. I am here. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. And we're in that Shakti. We're in the creative as Shiva witnesses us. And when we're so intentional about this sacred space, and we open it intentionally, and we close it intentionally, and we seal it up, and we send it out to the universe, that creates a ripple that cannot be touched by any man. That goes so deep into the subconscious, into the unconscious of the universe, and can reprogram us from a place that logically would never be able to make sense, ever. All right, so the 4 roots of feminine wounds, and of course, we're going to get into those more over the next coming weeks, but just to name them here. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything over the past couple things that I've been saying. Yeah, no, we're good. Caught up. Good. All right. So the mother wound really is like the primordial wound. So of course, like I shared my journey with wisdom fire and awakening into these wounds. So it was the first one that called to me, but it seems to be pretty much across the board that this is the initial wound that wakes us up. And of course it does. It's our mother wound. It's where we come from. It's the primordial wound that all of these other wounds kind of dance from. Now we'll get into the aspects of this as to like why they are fractals or how they move in fractals or what a fractal is. As we can see, there's a fractal right here. But from the mother wound, like I shared in my story, like that really is what stemmed the initial imprint of my sister wound, which then became its own thing, as these things do. The witch wound is something that, a lot of us are in New England, which is so magical in itself. So a lot of us have a deeper edge of karma around the witch wound. But this element is something that it's not even something that we need to experience in real life and have a memory of, because it is so deeply ingrained in our DNA. And all of these wounds are things that we are imprinted from our outer environment, but also we're imprinted from our DNA, from our lineage. So there's multiple ways that these wounds become embodied in us. The father wound as well, right? Like we learn about our relationship to the masculine through our father. We learn about our relationship to love through our parents, whether we had one parent or 2 parents, or they fought. No matter what it is, when we are young, we look up at our parents and we say, this is love. And no matter what we see, that's an imprint, that's a coding. So that for me, with my biological mother and the way that transposed in my life or imprinted in my life was love is abandonment. Love feels like abandonment. And this was the wound that I started to recreate. And it's a common one. It's a pretty common one. Love feels like betrayal is another common one, but that's more the father wound. There's aspects to this, and we'll go into this again deeper later. But these fractal out, like it starts with the personal. It starts with like the physical people in our life that are interacting, but then it begins to transpose on our relationship with everything, including our relationship with spirit, the universe, God, source, and life itself. So that's why it's so important to understand at like a cellular level, like what is encoded in our DNA, like what do we learn? And we don't need to actually know the specifics, right? So a lot of this, especially with the mother wound and the witch wound, we inherit through the maternal lineage. Like, we have this in our DNA from the women that have lived through millennia of actual witch trials. The witch wound comes from the fear of being caught in our power, of being executed for being in our fullest power, for being executed for being in our gifts, for being connected to spirit. So this wound is so important in this time right now, where we are collectively awakening, and it is the feminine coming up to rise to meet the masculine in the sacred union. This is the time that we're in. So healing this witch wound is essential, because it's what connects us to spirit. And there's so much here. Like, I could go into a big part of the work that I do as a practitioner, and I went through in my own life, of course, is healing at the zeal point, which is at the feminine mouth of God, which is like the medulla oblongata. It's this part, it's literally the feminine mouth of God. It's the part, the chakra, the energy center in a woman that allows us to speak from source. Speak from source. Now, we know in these like Abrahamic religions, women weren't allowed to speak the word of God. Like, that was the whole thing, is women weren't allowed. So the ways that women were executed was they were beheaded and they were hung. So their energy was cut here at this place that would separate them from their source of speaking truth. So there's a lot here. This I will go in much deeper in week 3 of our journey, but just to say that memory, that fear, we all have ancestors that had fear for their life, for being in their power. If we are alive today, someone in our ancestry made it through those times of the witch trials, of the witch hunts, so that we could be alive. And this is something that, you know, it manifests as, for me, a big thing was recording myself on camera, and being on camera in general, but like the recording aspect was a huge fear. So there's different ways that this witch wound manifests. In the father wound, yeah. So I'm going to talk about the imprints of these like a little bit. We're going to go in. I have a couple of like themes that I use. I have these like code words that kind of help us tune into them. All right. So yeah, we all carry unique blueprints, relationships, threads, and expressions of each of the 4 feminine wounds. The imprint of each wound creates a ripple effect, a fractal pattern that projects upon and beyond our relationships with other people. These patterns are deeply woven into our relationship with the universe, God, source, and the divine, which directly influences the fullness of our creatrix power. As we do this shadow work, which is subconscious healing, we start to reshape the entirety of our reality and become a vessel of healing for those around us to calibrate to. We are the medicine. We are the medicine. It's not outside of us. We are the medicine. Okay. So yeah, so the feminine principle, the masculine principle is I am, right? So like the Christos logos, the word of God, the oneness, I am. That is the masculine principle. The feminine principle is I relate. I'm in relationship. The sacred feminine knows thyself through relationships. The feminine is designed to learn, grow, and evolve through relationships. Relationships to other people, experiences, the universe, and life itself. All things are relationships. All things are relationships to our habits, all of it. It's all relevant. Okay. So yeah, so our power is going to come from having the ability to shape our perception about our relationships. And we can only have the power to shape the perception of our relationships when we have emotional freedom, when we have emotional intelligence, and when we can get out of that paradigm of this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. When we free ourselves from judgment, when we're non-attached and non-judgmental, we have the choice of how we want to shape our relationships, right? So that's our power. Our power comes from having the ability to consciously create the perception of our relationships. So our power comes from radically dismantling the veil that convinces us that we are separate from what we perceive. This one's a kicker. This one's a kicker. All right. So again, we're going to tap into the paradox, and we're going deeper into the feminine mysteries, because of course we are here to learn ourselves through relationships. And I feel like I want to preface with, how do I want to word this? where we're about to go can get into some sticky territory, because there are things that happen to people that are not right. Like there's violence that happens. There are things that happen to people that, abuse, violence, harm is never right. It's never okay. It's never okay. It's always harmful, right? So when I start to go into this layer, this is where that paradox is going to exist. So in no way would I ever victim blame per se. What I can say about my own experience is the traumas that I've had in the relationships, like the bullying, it was severe. Like it was severe bullying. It wasn't just surface bullying. It was like physical, severe, move out of the state bullying, to sexual assaults. Like the experiences that I had through my life, I see the pattern. They weren't one off. They were patterns. They were fractal manifestations from a core imprint that just got louder and louder and louder until I addressed the imprint. So again, this isn't about victim blaming, but there is something about the patterns in nature. Everything that is created in nature is a fractal, and we'll get into this. And I love talking about this. It's all geometry and it's all math. Our consciousness is all math. It's genius. It's brilliant. And our human minds could never comprehend it, but our minds like shape and sacred geometry and all of the things. So that being said, for experiences to come into our field, there's a part of us that needs to be in resonance with them. There is law of attraction is a very real thing. Like we have to be in vibrational resonance and in harmony for something to unfold, even if that thing ends up creating trauma. So the stickiness here, I totally understand it. And I'm going to speak to, I want to say that I'm not including traumatic experiences where somebody's power was taken from them by another person's will. That's what I want to say. This is not including when someone's power is taken from them by another person's will. That would be a separate conversation. So let me just preface with that. Okay. So that being said, in all other experiences that create these imprints, these shadows, these woundings, we are a match for the entirety of the situation. We are the villain. We are the victim. We are the hero. There is a drama triangle that exists within the sacred theater of life that is always ongoing. It is always ongoing. And Shakespeare was brilliant. Like he was like Illuminati brilliant, right? Like he really understood the sacred theater and the sacred drama and how the Godhead, that oneness consciousness exists through all beings in the moment. So there's this aspect of us when we go deeper into these realms, deeper into the feminine mysteries, there's a part of us that has to accept, like, we are the fullness of the moment. We are not just an individual having an individual experience. We are all of it. We are the moment. We are the entirety of the experience. We are all of it. And it's from that place that we can see that we are orientated. Our consciousness is orientated in space and time. And our orientation in space and time holds a specific coding and power that can transmute for the entirety of the moment. And this is something that becomes a skill. This is something that becomes a practice. There's more personal responsibility that we get as we start to take back our personal power from all of the experiences that we gave our power away to unconsciously, unknowingly, subconsciously. So when we go on this journey, when we're on this feminine wounds healing journey, all of a sudden we're going to see that we are a lot more powerful than we knew we were, because so much of our energy has been stuck in the past in these subconscious imprints. And when we start to reclaim that, we notice that not only are we more powerful, but we have more responsibility to bring love and forgiveness and compassion into the moment for all beings, especially the ones that don't have it for themselves, especially the ones that don't have it for themselves. So this isn't small, like this is big work. And this is the work that qualifies people to be in highest service. This is the work that qualifies practitioners. This is the work that qualifies mothers and daughters and sisters and women in general. And this is unique. This is unique to being born with a uterus. This is unique to having that sacred portal, because this is one of those aspects. This is one of the properties of the womb. It is the center of transmutation. It's the center of creation and dissolution. So it is our responsibility as womb carriers that we use this vortex that exists within our body to heal the entirety of the moment, but it starts with ourselves. It starts with ourselves. So yeah, so this piece of dismantling the veil that convinces us that we are separate from what we perceive, we can't other people. It doesn't work like that. There is no other. If we can perceive it, it exists within us. We can't know something unless it exists within us. It doesn't work. It's cognitive dissonance, right? Like we can't know it unless we already know it, unless we already are it. So this practice of non-judgment and non-attachment, like it's a radical practice. And that's why I bring it up all the time. It's not like, oh, okay, stop judging. It's like, no, like really embody that. Like really, really, really embody that. All right. All right. So these are the themes that, so originally this portion of my work I had in a program that I still run called Prosperous Priestess. And the reason I had it in a program about prosperity was because these wounds were in my life and what I see in my clients' life and people around me, these wounds are the blocks to our prosperity. So it made the most sense to have this be a piece in the Prosperous Priestess program. So the women working through that program understood how to transmute their wounds and have more power so they could have more prosperity in their life. So that being said, when I developed that program and I was like, all right, how do I put these into concepts, these themes that like just stick and simplify, right? Because we like simple, we do like simple, our human mind likes simple. So the mother wound, the themes that make the most sense are all around approval and acceptance, right? So like an example, like I talked about my example of love feels like abandonment, and that was part of my mother wound. But another big piece of this is unworthiness. If we have a mother that's constantly nitpicking at us or telling us like we're not enough or we're not just like whatever it is, like we learn that we are unworthy and we put that out on the universe. So here we are trying to prove our worth to the universe, and the universe is just echoing us back that we don't think we're worthy. And this is the dance of the mother wound that we have in the moment with the universe. Now, the sister wound comes down to comparison and competition. And this isn't even our fault at this point. We have an entire culture that is teaching women specifically to be in competition. And I talked about this briefly in the Conscious Menstruation and Cyclical Alchemy program. But essentially, when women gather together in harmony, like women are actually gathering together, we produce oxytocin, we sync up, we become a hive mind. Like this is an actual thing. This is why groups of women coming together for healing is so powerful, because we create a resonance that goes so deep and produces a joy hormone, a pleasure hormone in our brain. Like this is unstoppable energy. So to me, it's like, oh, well, that's a coincidence that we have a dominant masculine culture that is perpetuating this narrative that women need to be in competition, which produces testosterone, which takes women out of harmony with other women. So there's this whole aspect of like, we have to look at what's going on. We have to be responsible, of course, for our action, but we also have to notice, like with the mother wound, especially what our mothers gave us for wounding, her mother probably gave her. Like, let's be real. And the sister wound, what we're playing out with other women, might not have just been like because one person hurt us. It's probably because the whole culture is a little twisted here. The witch wound that I talked about before, which is all about voice and visibility, it's all throat chakra. It's all throat chakra, which is not just our physical audible sound voice, but it's in our vibration of how much space we take up in our field. Like this is really important. Like our sound, everything is light and sound. Sound is vibration. Our presence is vibrating atoms. Are we allowing ourselves to be in our full sound, our full resonance in the vibration of our atoms, or are we tucking in? Are we playing small? This is all related to the witch wound. And this again is in our DNA. And then our father wound, we learned from our fathers all about surrender and security. Now this one, I said in one of my lives when I was coming out with this program, I had the intention of running this program probably 3 years ago, and it didn't happen. It didn't come. But at that time, I didn't even know the father wound. I didn't even know this whole journey. And it was really, I had this really epic experience of getting like stranded on Hawaii for 4 months. It's a whole different story. But that whole journey was healing the archetype of the father, healing the father wound and coming back to surrender and security and looking at all of these ways. And this is the whole thing. It's like, if we had a father that wasn't present, and the masculine aspect of life is the provider, right? Like it is the protector. So if we have a father that's not present, then we learn that we have to protect and provide for ourselves. And then we're going out into the universe. Like we have to carry that energy when the universe in its masculine form, because the universe is non-gendered, but then it takes on shapes to our human personified mind. So our human mind can make sense of it. So when the universe shows up in its masculine form, the Holy Father, God, however you want to call it wants to provide for us. But if we are cock blocking the universe, literally, from penetrating us and giving us what is inherently our abundance, inherently taking us to the kingdom, because we have this wounding that says that we need to protect, we need to provide, we need to control. This is all father wound. This is all father wound. So for me, it all starts with the mother wound and it all ends with the father wound. Like this is the journey. This is the journey of coming into a wholeness and feeling safe and trusted and in harmony with the universe, in resonance with the universe, when we can work through these 4 root core feminine wounds, which we all share. We all have a very unique expression of all of them, and maybe not so unique, right? Like it's both and. But when we can go through and really come to these 4 root wounds, our personal power excels, it expedites, it exponentially increases. And we have everything we need to navigate moment to moment as the priestess, queen, healers that we are. Like this is it. This is the medicine. And again, it's not just for us. We are all walking wounded. So we become that vessel for other people to calibrate to. And especially when it comes to the sister wound, like this can be frustrating, right? Because it's like, and I'm sure we feel this way with our mothers most of the time, because it's like the next generations are always more conscious than the ones that come before. So who are we to be more conscious than our mother? Our mother should be mothering us. We shouldn't have to be more responsible than our mother. There's all of these little petty things of attachments to the stories that can get in the way of our actual healing vortex, our actual healing power, our actual service to the moment. So there's nuance here, but this is what we get to go into deeply in the next 4 weeks. Okay. Fractals. All right. I love visuals. Okay. So fractals are patterns that get repeated. They exist all within nature. Nature is math. Nature is geometry. We are nature. We are math. We are geometry. Our thoughts are not coincidence. They're all mathematical. Like we can measure our thoughts. Like they're just patterns. We're not as unique as we think we are. We're not, which is beautiful because we are so much more unique at a core level than what our human mind thinks we are. But our thoughts are not that unique. Our thoughts are just mental, verbal representations of a vibration, right? So we associate words with vibration, and this is part of the shadow. This is part of that 95% of our self exists in the subconscious realms. That's all this is. So even thoughts are not unique. They're just an interpretation of a frequency. But what we're doing when we're looking at the fractals is there's always going to be a core imprint. There's always this core essence, and everything else blossoms from within. I'm like, looking at my flower here, it's a little dried out. It's not a good example. It smells so good. Gardenias, so freaking good. But especially with the rose, like the rose. Oh, I have one here. Like we can see with the rose, the whole spiral, it just takes one pattern and then it just keeps going out, keeps going out. And this is what we do with our wounds. And it's what we get to do with our light too. So the wounds that exist within us repeat throughout our universe in fractals. Our work is to come to the root of the wound so that we may collapse and reshape the entire blueprint, pattern, and structure of the reality that we are creating. Yeah. Yeah. It gets to be simple. We use ritual. It gets to be simple. All of our wounds are relative to our lived experience. I need to emphasize this so much. This is the number one thing. I remember last year when I ran the Prosperous Priestess program, and I share through story because we relate through story. That's how the feminine works. And I'm sharing stories more intimately about like mother wound specific stuff. And I'm lucky I have 2 mothers, so I get like double the wounds, double the traumas. It's like a really cool thing. So I'm sharing some of my stories, and both of the women instantly go in this place of minimizing their wounding. And this is what we do. This is like, we're conditioned to do this. It's like, we're conditioned to compare, right? So this is the sister wound. We compare our woundings to other people's woundings. So we don't allow ourselves to actually feel the relativity, the impact of what the wound actually did for us as a sovereign being. So minimizing our wounding through comparison dissociates ourselves from the deep and relative impact that the wounds have on our lives. So just notice when you start to compare your wounds with other people, or you start to think that however this shadow comes up or however that imprint was first registered, like it's not as big of a deal and you have nothing to complain about, or it's not even impacting, it can't ripple out that much. Like just start noticing the ways that you minimize. This is like such a feminine condition that culture and society has put on us. Minimize, minimize. Everyone else has it worse. You can't feel bad, da, 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 da. Or the opposite. I have it way worse. Nobody else understands. Like we go to extremes. This is the sister wound. This is the comparison wound, right? Come into your own autonomy with this. All wounds are relevant. All wounds are relevant. All right. Yeah, so the wounds hold the paradox of life. Our shadows exist within our light. When we begin to integrate our shadows, we are on the path of accessing our gifts. The only way to access the fullness of our gifts is to release judgment of the wounds. Yeah, this is separating like the feeling from the story, right? Like the wounding is going to have this feeling imprint, but it's way less about the story. It's way less about the story, and it's everything to do with the feeling. And as I said in the other program, it's like our work is to feel our feelings all the way through, and that's the gold. That's the gold. Okay. And this work isn't linear. We continue to spiral. Yeah, so here's some keys for non-judgment. Okay, so there is no true right and wrong, or good or bad, and duality. There's pleasure, there's pain, there's resonance, there's dissonance, there's allowance, there's resistance, there's surrender, there's control, there's expansion, there's contraction, there's inhale, there's exhale, but neither is good nor bad, right? So like this is what we really want to look at when we're observing our experiences, is that we're taking out the judgment of pleasure is better than pain or resonance is better than dissonance, and we're just staying with the adjective. We're just staying with the sensation without the judgment. When we can witness and experience polarity without judgment, we become free to have choice. And I'm not sure if I bring this up a little bit later, but this goes into the whole concept of we are the entire moment. Like we can only understand the experience if we understand there's a villain, a victim, and a hero. Like we have to see all angles to fully understand what's happening in a moment. We can't know pleasure without knowing pain. We can't know what it is to inhale if we weren't going to exhale. Like these are all things that we can only understand through knowing the whole polarity. Like the truth exists within the fullness of the entirety of the polarity without judging it. All right, let me do a little time check here. All right, so I would say we have a little bit left. So I'm going to say, let's take a bio break. Let's take like a 5-minute bio break. And then we're going to go into these elements of the shadow work pieces that are much more practical. And then we will be wrapped and ready for our journey that begins next week. Okay. See you in 5 minutes. All right. Arriving back. Okay, so elements of shadow work. We'll get a little bit practical because I love weaving the mystical with the practical. It's very important. Okay. All right. So the first step is transmutation, and then we are able to turn lead into gold. So I want to get a little nuanced here, because when I say transmutation, I'm talking about mental transmutation. Because when we're working with alchemy, which is the whole process of turning lead into gold, we need charge, we need energy. We cannot transform energy without energy being present. And the more energy that is present, the more we have to work with alchemically. But this aspect of the first step being transmutation, we need to get into that. And my favorite Rumi quote ever is, out beyond the fields of right doing and wrongdoing, that's where you'll find me. And this is it. Like, this is really it. And Rumi represents that eternal love. And especially as feminine beings, it's like, that's our gift, is love. We are here to love. Our greatest fulfillment comes from being the embodiment of love. So to be in that alchemical chamber, we have to access that place within us that knows that things are not good, bad, right, wrong. Things just are. And from that space, we get to turn lead to gold, something less valuable to something more valuable, right? Okay. So yeah, this is a journey of like developing emotional intelligence and personal power. Like, this is, again, we want to hold the tension, right? This concept we talked about in conscious menstruation and cyclical alchemy. We want to be able to hold and build tension in our body. The bigger the tension, the bigger the pressure, the more tension, the more pressure, the bigger the diamond. It's just what it is. It's just alchemy. It's energy exchange, right? So we want to be able to build our capacity to hold more. And this is something like, and that classic like principle or quote that life gives us what we can handle, like, this is so important to just trust in. Anything we are given, we can handle. We truly, truly can. And there's parts of us, like, we have learned, especially like when we've had traumas as children, when we were young and less developed, we couldn't handle the fullness of an experience. So what life did was it fragmented part of us, so that as we develop into an adult, we have opportunity to reconnect these fragmented aspects of self. So as mature, developed adults, we now have the power that we didn't have when we were developing. And this is our chance to heal the parts of ourselves that were imprinted, that were wounded, that were traumatized when we were younger. So this is the responsibility piece, right? Like, we have to reclaim the parts of ourselves that were left in the past through this integration. We have to be integrated in this space. And we can do that by trusting that the universe is giving us exactly what we need in the moment to bring these pieces in. We don't have to go out shadow hunting. Like, we do not have to go out shadow hunting. Our shadows are very, very clear and revealed to us. We do not need to seek them out. Let me emphasize this. We do not need to go seek out our shadows. Our shadows will come to us in perfect timing, always. All right. Yeah. So tapping into that divine unconditional love that exists, that non-judgment, that forgiveness. Oh my God, forgiveness, like real forgiveness, embodied forgiveness. That's the magic. That's the medicine. Okay. So again, on this journey that we are going on, we will get more specific to working with each of the wound through these processes. But in general, just general like shadow work in the moment, like in the moment of a trigger, identify the trigger. I am triggered. Oh, I am not in my normal state of consciousness. I am not the Zen version of myself that I normally am. Something is poking me. Something is zapping me. Something is getting my attention. I am triggered. Just name it. Just name it. First step. Then we regulate the nervous system. Easier said than done. So a couple practical tips for regulating the nervous system. Like, this is obviously also a hot topic across all the industries and all of the ways, but it's so much simpler. It's so much simpler than our mind thinks it is, but it takes more patience than our mind wants to give. We can regulate our nervous system through breath, like just through breath, just through breath. But the issue is sometimes it takes 30 seconds and sometimes it takes 20 minutes of breathing. And a lot of the time we're impatient and we don't want to take 20 minutes to regulate our nervous system. We don't want to take space. We don't want to take space to breathe. But that's the work. Like that's our responsibility. It's really in coming to take the time and the space to regulate our nervous system. And that comes first. That comes first before we take any action. There is no action we take from a place of a dysregulated nervous system that we're going to be happy about when we realize we had the choice to make another action from a regulated nervous system. We want choice. We want choice. So take the time when you're triggered to regulate your nervous system before taking any action, before opening your mouth, if possible. And we do our best. We do our best. We do our best. We do our best. This is not a journey of perfection. This is a moment to moment. I have more awareness this time I'm going in. I'm going to cultivate more regulation of my nervous system. I'm going to do it for 5 minutes. Okay, I did it for 3. Like whatever. Like we do the best we can and our capacity grows over time. We expand our nervous system's capacity to regulate quicker or to be in the practice longer. All of these things take time and practice. This is a practice, not a perfection. I nailed it kind of thing. It is a journey of evolution. Another thing that's really, really helpful for regulating the nervous system, I love this tip and it's worked like effectively for every single one of my clients. Especially I have clients that have challenges breathing, like breathing can even trip them out into like certain OCD elements. Or I have another client that was just so dissociated from the body that even finding her breath was very challenging. So one of the best ways that we can do this when there is more of that dissociative body thing is through visualization and imagining the breath, because breath is light is consciousness, right? So when we're breathing, we can bring consciousness light into our body. So visualizing the breath as light and seeing it travel down the spinal cord, which is like our nervous system, and branching all the way down to the tailbone and seeing the nerve endings at the root of the tailbone spreading out. So if we can bring our awareness, our consciousness, our breath, our light to activate through our imagination, through the entirety of our spinal cord, out the ends of our root, the tailbone, the root of our body, and feel all those nerve endings activated there, this will regulate the nervous system through breath and imagination. So this is a really, really good practice. Okay. So identify the trigger, regulate the nervous system, and then this is a fun one. Identify any fear, guilt, or shame entanglement. This is a whole program on its own. I had a post, it was like the only post I've ever had that's like gone viral that was talking about these 3 elements of fear, guilt, and shame. And essentially the way I perceive them is fear is the distortion of the root chakra. Guilt is the distortion of the solar plexus, and shame is the distortion of the sacral. So these aren't real feelings. They are distorted energies. Now it gets complex. Like there's nuance here with fear, especially because fear is a part of our human existence. There's healthy fear, there's healthy, rational fear. And then there's fear that's like it is just distorted. There's distorted fear that we create for no reason whatsoever. So when we're coming up, when we're triggered, if we have shame attached to our trigger, that's going to complicate the emotional process that we're moving through. So the way that we uncomplicate it is we say, I am feeling shame. And then we ask, what is under the shame? And that's what we want to get to. I am feeling fear. What is under the fear? I am feeling guilt. What is under the guilt? So we want to start to see, we want to identify if there is any fear, guilt, or shame on top of the energy of the moment, because we're working with Shakti, right? Like we're in the feminine embodiment. We are the energy, we are the feeling, and we're detaching the story. And the shame, the fear, and the guilt is going to be part of the story, not part of the pure feeling, the pure Shakti creative energy we're working with. So start to notice this entanglement. Noticing it, having the awareness is enough to separate it. Then we come to the feeling, feel the feeling all the way through. You all know how enthusiastic I am about this practice. Like this is the practice. And then we have the ability to change the relationship of the moment to the person, to the trigger through perspective and feeling. When we feel the feeling all the way through, it is a journey that one feeling leads to the next feeling, leads to the next. It's a journey. It's a journey of evolution. And when we have that masculine arrowhead, when we know where we want to go, which is we can only know where we want to go if we have conscious choice. If our nervous system is regulated, that is the only way we know where we want to go. And when we can aim that, we change the relationship through our perspective and through the feelings that naturally, organically are born through feeling our feelings all the way through. Okay. So feel the feelings all the way through. Yeah, the expression of any wounds are going to be somatic. They're going to be in the feeling body. We have, of course, like the stories that we connect to why the triggers are there, but that's not important. That's going to be a distraction from actually healing the energetic body that's in the present moment. So our body is a sacred instrument. All feelings are here to support our evolution. Everything that our body is communicating to us is not to punish us. It is to support us on our healing and evolutionary path. Our soul communicates to our conscious mind through the body. Sensations in the body will turn up as we become triggered. Whether it is emotional or physical, honor your experience without judgment. This is key to seeing beyond the veil. And when I'm talking about veil, I'm talking about ego. If we can be in non-judgment to the feeling, to the Shakti, to the energy that's alive in the moment, we can see that veil drops and we can see the fullness of the interplay of the interaction that is happening between us, other people, the universe, whatever it is, whatever the dance is, because energy is always moving. We want that veil to drop. We want the veil to drop. We want to see oneness as we embody separation. That this is where the healing comes from. This is where the deep unconditional love, this is where all our feminine magic is born, is when we allow that veil to drop. Triggers are the medicine. Allow yourself to be triggered by others. Love yourself through the trigger. Allow others to be triggered by you and love them through the trigger. So this is like one of the most liberating things that we can really embody and conceptualize. It's like when we're trying to protect other people from being triggered, we're blocking them from their own potential of healing. And when we're coddling ourselves in our nervous systems and we're going out in the world trying to not be triggered by things, we're limiting our growth. We're limiting our growth. So this is really, really important. Like our work is to be triggered. We're not meant to be neutral all the time. We're not meant to create stories about the triggers. We're not meant to be reactive towards the triggers. But every trigger is an opportunity for our growth, our evolution, our personal power reclamation. And that's the gift we get to give to others. I am a highly triggering person. I'm a 5/1 emotional authority manifestor in human design. I trigger people with every breath I breathe, or you resonate with me fully. It's like one or the other. And when I learned that other people being triggered by me was not my problem and it was actually my gift, it was very, very liberating. And of course, I'm careful and kind and all the things, but it's like this is the medicine. The triggers are the medicine. The triggers show us what wants attention. So trying to protect someone from being triggered, we're not doing a service. This doesn't mean go out of your way to trigger people. It just means be the fullness of who you be, authentically, imperfectly, in wholeness, perfection in the moment, in imperfect perfection. Okay, so I talked about this before. We can only perceive what's within us. We can't conceptualize something unless we know it, and we can only know it if it exists within us, right? So this is the trip. This is the trip. This is the trip. This is the trap. So when we are triggered by other people, we must remember that they are the sacred mirror. Like we're all one. This is the sacred theater. Yeah, our work is never to try to change other people, right? Very important, especially when it comes to like, say, our mothers. Like we are not here to change other people in our lives. Like that's not the point. We're here to change our response. We're here to have our ability to respond, responsibility and less reaction. We're here to heal through the triggers that other people evoke. Our triggers are not an opportunity for us to point out what other people need to fix. Let's just be clear about that. And the more we have the urge to do so is the deeper invitation for us to look at the parts of ourselves that actually want to be evolved and changed, right? So we'll see this especially with the mother wound. And this is very classic, right? It's like the aspects that we really resist within our mothers tend to be the aspects that we come into as adults. What we resist persists and it manifests within our physical reality. So when we have this urge to change other people, it is that reflection of where can we go in and see where this is manifested within our own expression of self and where can we change it within ourselves. And this is like the serenity prayer, right? It's like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, to the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? Like this is really that. It's really that. Are my wounds talking to your wounds? This is fun, right? Like trauma bonding in all the ways. But we never know how another person is experiencing a dynamic in a relationship. We don't. We think we know how someone's experiencing what's happening in the relationship, but we never can actually know what's going on in somebody else's perception. We don't know their whole life's journey and all of their wounds and all of their imprints that are bringing them into this current moment, and what their wounds are talking to your wounds about. We don't know the mental interpretation of what's happening. But we do know that we are here to awaken through our relationships. So what can we do? We can be kind. We can be compassionate. We can be forgiving. We can give the compassion that we wish to receive. We can give the forgiveness that we wish to receive. Like this is the art of all of it. And when we can see that we are not separate, like, forgiveness, especially like if somebody has done something that maybe caused harm to us, whether intentionally or indirectly, this element of forgiveness, when we bring forgiveness for another person, we're not doing that as a service for them. We're doing it to liberate ourselves. And then as a byproduct, it serves them. And that's kind of the essence of all of this, right? We do it for ourselves first, and then other people get the benefit of it. We're not martyrs. Like this is not about being a martyr. This is about self-sufficiency and empowerment. Like that's what this is about. And when we elevate ourselves, we become that beacon, that vessel, that light, that healing portal that other people can link up to and also heal through. Like it's just a gift that keeps on giving. It is our gift as feminine beings. So yeah, as I've said, we are the victim, we are the villain, we are the hero. Our truest existence goes beyond the perception of the ego. We are the entirety of the moment. We are the sacred theater. We are the stage in which the characters dance upon. We're all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. So all of these opportunities that we are given to release judgment for other people just allow us to accept ourselves more. And oftentimes, most oftentimes, it's easier to accept things in other people than it is ourselves. And that becomes that opportunity for us to love ourselves through the eyes of other people, which is really, really potent, really powerful. Ooh, is there anything else I want to say about this? Yeah, and just emphasizing that it's not about perfectionism, right? Like we just want to do better. We want to give our best, and we want to grow, and we want to do better next time. Like it's a journey of evolution. It's a journey of growth, not perfection. Okay. Give yourself freedom of choice. Give yourself the gift of freedom of choice. Yeah. So what does wanting to be right look like and feel like? Like without judging yourself, like go there. What does it feel like to be righteous? Because it feels really fucking good. Like just go there. Like feel it in your body. Allow yourself to feel that. Play it out. Play out the whole opportunity. You're triggered. Say you're in a dynamic talking to another person, or you're in a dynamic with the universe. This is really fun. What does it look like to be right in your conviction about where your stance is, where this tension in the dynamic is existing? Play it out. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Where could it lead? Then come into what does wanting to be in peace and happiness look like and feel like? Let yourself go there. What does it feel like to let go of the righteousness and instead choose peace and happiness? What does that feel like? What does that look like? Non-judgment. One is not superior to the other. They are just different experiences. And then you can consciously choose. You have the freedom of choice because you are no longer making something right, wrong, good, or bad. You are free. You are free to choose the path, choose your adventure, which is worth investing your intention and your energy into. And you get to do that from an embodied space, not a story, not a moral, not, like the ways that we've been indoctrinated into saying these are the 10 commandments. This is what is right. This is what is wrong. You must choose what is right. Not from that place, but from a place of full embodied, intuitive feeling choice. You get conscious choice. You get freedom of choice from an embodied place. Play it all out. Play out your options. Give yourself freedom to choose. Okay. And yeah, as our light grows, it becomes our responsibility to bring healing into the moment. And this can really be a kick, especially with people like our mothers or like sisters, where it's like, but they're wrong, but they're being petty, like all of these things, right? It's not about that. Like the ego has to die. Like it is the strongest consciousness in the room wins. And if we have that, if we are that, If we are healers on this path of light working and shadow working and embodying and coming into these spiritual gifts and journeying through the mysteries, the feminine mysteries, with that comes responsibility. Like, this is the trade. This is the trade. So we are responsible for doing what's in the greatest good for all, not ourselves. What is in greatest service to the entirety of the moment, because we are not just one person. We are the entirety of the moment. We exist within all life that's alive in the moment. This is the oneness. So what is the highest good for all? As our light grows, it becomes our responsibility to bring healing to the moment. That is what our embodiment is for. That is what our womb is for. That is what our vessel is for, to bring in that healing light, that consciousness, that love. Okay. Almost wrapped. So yeah, our gifts emerge through our presence. There are elements of practice that could never be put into words. Like, this is a mystery path. Life is the mystery school. This is a journey where it's like, I'm handing you, here's the guide, here's the map, take it. It's kind of rough. I scribbled it on a napkin. You'll figure it out. But when we commit to this journey, when we commit to becoming aware of our shadows through a non-judgmental lens, we take back our power and reclaim freedom of choice to become the conscious creators of our reality. Naturally, we begin to choose pathways that generate more and more healing for ourselves and the people in our lives. We find the trapdoors in the ceiling that deliver us to awakening, to healing, and transforming far beyond what our mind could ever predict. The magic is in the energy, the magic is in our embodiment, and the magic is in our relationships. Yeah, so no expectations, right? Like, we don't go into this with any expectation. We go into it to be in awe. We go into it to see what the universe wants to reveal to us. We go in there giving our best, and the magic is in the presence. Our gifts come from the emergence of the present moment, and the present moment is born through us. It's born through us in our breath. Okay. All right, so I want to talk about our journey for a little bit, and I want to talk about something that's coming up after the journey. All right, so we're coming into this 4-week immersion. So like I said, this is the information. Now, of course, there's going to be information. We're going to be going into the wounds a little bit more thoroughly, intricately. But in those sessions, there's going to be time for reflection. Like, we're going to be doing journaling. We're going to be doing the introspective work. It is about the energy you put into these sessions. It's not going to be come and receive. It's going to be come and show up. Like, all of you show up. But take your time through them. So the sessions, the live sessions, and if you're catching this replay or you're not doing the sessions live, you get to choose your pace. But the way that we're pacing this while it's live is we're meeting on Tuesdays to go in to do the introspective work, to do the groundwork. And then on Thursdays, we're going into ritual. So if you feel, say the first wound we go into is the mother wound. If you feel intuitively that you are not ready to go into ritual to release this wound yet, trust that. Trust that. Trust that. Trust that in perfect time, it will reveal itself. Trust the way you move through each of these modules. I do suggest going in order: mother, sister, witch, father. There seems to be a really powerful sequence. Like I said, it all starts with the mother. But this father wound is really where the gold is. And I love that, 2 of you women already stated, like, this is what you're here for. Like, this is why this program took so long to be born, because this was a integral piece that needed to land for this to be a complete journey. So trust the way you want to move through this. Yeah, so of course, these are the wounds that we're going to be looking through: the mother wound, the sister wound, the witch wound, and the father wound. Yeah, so we're going to be going through 4 sessions of transmission and reflection, 4 rituals for transmutation and transformation. It will begin live on August 1st, next Tuesday. It will continue to be available infinitely to purchase as a pre-recorded program with lifetime access. This is really a part of my legacy. I'm really, really happy to have this as like an egg that is laid in the universe, and other people get to tap into this whenever in this holographic timeless space-time continuum thing, whenever they want. All right. So yeah, so when we go into the mother wound, like these key pieces that we're looking at are the parts of ourself that are even outsourcing approval and acceptance. Like this is what it comes back to. These are the themes. With the sister wound, we're looking at the parts of ourselves that navigate through comparison and competition and coming back into our sovereignty. With the witch wound, we're looking at the parts of ourselves that are challenged between the voice and the visibility, the showing up in our fullness, which we all need. We all need more work on this always. This is part of the feminine rising, to be in balance. And then with the father wound, we're coming back to feeling that surrender and the security. Yeah, so we're going to be meeting at 6 p.m. Eastern on both days. They'll both start. So the first sessions, I'm assuming you all are getting like kind of the feel for how I do these. I never put a hard stop because that's part of honoring the feminine energy. That's my relationship with the universe. I listen, I trust. I feel like our Tuesday sessions, the transmission sessions and the reflection sessions will be 2 hours and the ritual sessions will be 1 hour. That's what I feel like they'll be. Okay. So yeah, we all carry unique blueprints, relationships, threads, and expressions of each of the 4 root feminine wounds. The imprint of each wound creates a ripple effect, a fractal pattern that projects upon and beyond our relationships with other people. These patterns are deeply woven into our relationship with the universe, God, source, and the divine, which directly influences the fullness of our creatrix power. And this is what we're looking at too, right? Of course, it starts with the micro, like the acute relationships we have, the imprints that we learn from the human relationships. But we really want to get at how this impacts our relationship with the universe. We want to get to that macro, like this is the depth of the work. This is the journey. So as we do the shadow work, the subconscious healing, we start to reshape the entirety of our reality and become a vessel of healing for those around us to calibrate to. We are the medicine. We are the medicine. All right. Yeah. So here's the information. On one page, 8-module program. The price is now $222. I believe it'll always stay at $222. The live journey begins on August 1st, 2023. Sessions held Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So here's the other thing. So I have this integration journey that's going to come up. And let's jump in there for a second. So I'm creating this 3-month integration container, and specifically for the people that did conscious menstruation and this feminine wounds program. So the conscious menstruation was a big dose, right? Like we had 6.5 hours of deep transmission, like calibration portal into the womb mysteries, into cyclical alchemy. Now we're going into this next layer. We're pulling the veil back a little bit more. So this is deep embodiment work. But we want that integration piece to be in place for this to land, right? So right now, like this journey of coming deeper into feminine embodiment is always that dance of masculine and feminine, and the masculine is the structure. So I'm inviting women into this 3-month integration container to have the structure to deepen into the feminine, to deepen into the Shakti, into the creative, into the mystery school of life. So this is literally a group coaching container specifically to deepen into the feminine mysteries, into your personal power. So this is for women who are desiring to move and grow intimately within community. Excuse me for a second. Ooh, one more. Okay. Oh, and I'm just seeing a message. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to read this out loud because I think this is like important. Yeah, so whenever I have to do subconscious work in the past, I've gotten exhausted. Do I just follow this deep or this crazy deep need to rest? Other practitioners are just like, that's a smoke screen, push through. And I'm like, I can't. Yeah, no, don't push through. I honor cyclical alchemy. I honor that winter phase. And the more you surrender, the more you give yourself the fullest permission to let go and rest, the quicker it'll move through. If you are resisting the rest at all, that resistance takes energy and it's going to postpone so much of the healing. So the other part of this, sorry, I like this horrible tickle in my throat.
Thank you.
Mhm. The other part of this, um, is that oftentimes when we're working in the realms of the subconscious and unconscious, the information comes through when we're more in between the realms, right? So we want to essentially, over time, we want to build our capacity to stay conscious, to not drift in and out of different states like we would in hypnosis, right? Like that's kind of the journey of expanding our consciousness, is to need less and less rest on the way, and at the same time honor exactly where you are at and take as much deep rest as your body wants, because that is the integration. The rest is the integration, and it's only when we can surrender fully to rest can we fully bring our energy out on the other side. So great question. Yes. And that's the other piece of this, why it's like, take your time through yeah, that's perfect, Lydia. Take your time through the modules, like really trust what your body needs to digest them. Okay. So yeah, so this integration container, this 3-month integration container, this is for people specifically who know they thrive in like hive mind, or maybe they don't know. Maybe this is for people that like haven't done any sisterhood work, right? Like maybe this is the element of healing through the sister wound. So you will have access to personalized coaching. Like it will be a group coaching container. So you will get like one-on-one hot seat coaching essentially in this container, but it's within a group setting. So you're also going to get the gifts of growing in sisterhood, learning through witness and relating to other people, and having heart-centered community support. So there's a specific magic that happens when women gather to do this work. There's a specific magic happens when we start to hear different stories from different angles that unlocks us. And again, oneness, right? That unlocks us on a deeper level. So this integration container is specifically for the women that have moved through the conscious menstruation program and cyclical alchemy and the feminine wounds program, because I want to create a space, a structure for all of this integration to unfold in. I don't want to leave you high and dry and figuring it out, but being in my frequency, right? Like stay in my world, stay listening to the lives that I do, stay in the Diamond Light Temple, stay interactive, because your interaction with the energy is part of the integration. And that's what this is. So embodied as a 3-month integration container. And again, like this element here, our gifts emerge through our presence. There are elements of practice that could never be put into words. So the more we can be in intentional containers to witness and experience, this is it. Like this is the art. This is the magic. When we commit to this journey, when we commit to becoming aware of our shadows through a non-judgmental lens, and also not judging other people, right? Like our sisters, when we can be in the space and practice that, because we can see things that other people bring up and it's like, oh, I would never do that. And that's part of the work. Like that's part of the deep work to releasing and dropping those veils. We take back our power and reclaim our freedom of choice to become the conscious creators of our reality. Naturally, we begin to choose pathways that generate more and more healing for ourselves and the people in our lives. We'll need less and less naps. We will continue to build more and more energy. That's the thing, is we are building our life force energy. We are building our creative energy. We are building our potential for Shakti, Kundalini, all of this sexual energy. All of this builds through this work. Yeah, and we're doing this for ourselves first, and then everyone in our lives. We find the trapdoors in the ceiling that deliver us to awakening, healing, and transforming far beyond what the mind could ever predict. The magic is in our energy. The magic is in our embodiment. The magic is in our relationships, especially with our sisters. So yeah, this will be limited space because I want this to be interactive. I want everyone to feel seen, heard, connected. I want an intimate group, an intimate pod to move through. It's going to begin. I don't know if I have the beginning. Yeah, okay. So it's going to begin on September 20th. So you're going to have a month to move through the feminine wounds work, and then it's going to go all the way through December. So we're closing out the year in this container, right? Is there anything I wanted this to say? Yeah. We're going to have 12 calls, interactive group coaching, integration, anything goes, whatever's present. Life is the mystery school. That is the point. We bring our lived experiences into this, and we start to shape and reframe the perception of the reality through the lens of these temple teachings, this feminine mystery perspective. So this is closing out the year. Like this is sealing out the year 2023 together. if you join this program, if you join the integration program before July 28th, you get the $222. You get this program for free. I really want people to take this and integrate it. I don't want people to be doing this work and getting high off of doing the work and then like going out and regressing. That isn't fun for me as a practitioner. I want people to live it, transform it, and take it and make it their own. Like I want people to take this work and embody it. This is embodied. This is all about embodiment. So yeah, so if you're interested in joining this container, if you think you're like already like a fuck yes, let me know. Even if you've already paid for the feminine wounds, like we'll work out the thing, we'll work out the details. But this will be a more intimate container where we get to interact and you get to see how other people are working this medicine, this magic, and that's only going to inspire you to deepen and deepen and deepen accountability, sisterhood, all of the things. The magic happens when we come together as women. All right. Okay. Light's so bright when I have it on my face now. All right, my loves. So I will see you next Tuesday. Thank you for being present through the fullness of this perfectly timed 2-hour transmission. I'm so excited for our journey. I'm so excited. All right. If you have any questions, message me always.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.